You ever feel that pull, between doing the right thing and, well, not? What if I told you that entire struggle could be traced back to one single moment, one act of disobedience? That's what we're diving into. A foundational story of temptation, a huge choice, and a pretty surprising path to mercy, all coming from one of the world's most influential texts. Okay, so to really get this story, we can't just read the original text on its own. We need a guide. And our guide for this is the famous Tafseer ibn Kathir. Seriously, think of it like the director's commentary on a movie. It unpacks all the meaning and insight that's been gathered over centuries. It's basically our key to unlocking this whole thing. And this gets us to a question that I think is just hardwired into all of us, right? Why is it so hard sometimes? Why do we struggle with temptation? Where did that whole internal battle even start? Well, according to this commentary, the answer isn't in some dense philosophy book, it's in the very first story of our existence. So before we even meet Adam and Eve, the text does something really important. It it basically tells you what it's for. It says, hey, this isn't just some old history book. It's presented more like a living manual, a guide for navigating the exact kinds of struggles it's about to lay out for us. And I love this quote because it really shows you the two sides of the coin. On one hand, it's a warning. It's showing us the exact traps to avoid. But it's also a reminder, a source of guidance. It's basically saying, hey, you, pay attention, because what you're about to hear has everything to do with you. And that framing is so crucial as we jump into the main event. All right, and that brings us right to the heart of it, this central drama. This is where this huge cosmic conflict kicks off. It all starts with the creation of Adam and one single command, a command that's going to set off a chain reaction that defines, well, everything about being human. I mean, just imagine the scene, right? God creates Adam, issues one command to all the angels: prostrate before him, honor him. And you have this moment of complete cosmic unity. Every single angel obeys, all except one, Iblis, who you might know as Shaitan. He refuses. And that one act of defiance, that's the spark that lights the fuse for the entire human story. So you just have to ask, why? I mean, what could possibly make a being defy God right then and there when everyone else is obeying? What was really at the root of this universe-altering no? Well, the reason, according to the text, is it's almost shockingly simple. It's not some deep, complex theological debate. It's just pure arrogance. And it's all captured in 4 little words. I am better than him. That's it. He bases his entire cosmic rebellion on this one idea. I'm made of fire, he's made of clay, so I'm better. But check out how the commentary just completely flips this logic on its head. See, Iblis thinks fire is the superior element, right? But the Tafsir says, whoa, hold on. Fire represents recklessness, burning, destruction. And clay, the very thing he's looking down on, that embodies things like wisdom, patience, and growth. So his arrogance literally blinded him to what was truly valuable. In fact, the commentary pinpoints this moment as the very first use of a kind of flawed logic called qiyas, which is basically reasoning by analogy. And just think about that for a second. Iblis is the first being to ever use a bad apples to oranges comparison to justify doing the wrong thing. And because his whole argument was built on a foundation of pride, his conclusion was just a catastrophic mistake. And it set a really dangerous precedent. So, Iblis is cast out. He's declared the enemy. But he doesn't just, retreat. Nope. He pivots. Now he's got one mission and one mission only. Prove that he was right about humanity all along. His battleground? Paradise. His weapon? Deception. And his targets? Adam and Eve. And his method? It's pure psychological warfare. It's not a direct order. It's not a threat. The text says he whispered suggestions. So subtle, right? He doesn't even have to create a new desire out of thin air. He just hones in on the one they already have and puts a giant spotlight on the single solitary thing in all of paradise that's off limits. And this is where the deception gets really, really clever. He never comes out and says, God is lying to you. No way. Instead, he just reframes the whole situation. He suggests the rule isn't there to protect them, it's there to hold them back. He plants this little seed of doubt. Maybe God is just trying to keep you from becoming immortal, like angels. Suddenly, obedience starts to feel like a cage. And the whispers work. They eat from the tree. And the consequences are immediate. They're catastrophic. But honestly, what happens next is maybe the most important part of this whole story. It isn't just about the fall. It's about the huge difference between how they responded and how Iblis did. And in that difference, we find the path to mercy.
It all happens so fast, like 4 rapid-fire steps. First, they taste the fruit. But look at what happens right after that. This immediate, crushing realization. Their shame is just out there. It's manifest. And their first instinct isn't to make excuses or argue their case. It's to cover themselves up. It's only then that the judgment comes. Get down to earth. It's just this dizzying, life-altering cascade of events. And this right here, this is the pivotal moment. Just think about Iblis's response. He doubled down on his pride, right? Adam and Eve do the exact opposite. No excuses, no finger-pointing. They immediately own what they did, turn straight back to God, and just plead for mercy. And that humility, that becomes their saving grace.
So yeah, their action had an immediate consequence. But the commentary kind of uses this moment to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of divine justice. Like, how are all our deeds ultimately judged? And it's a really fascinating deep dive, with scholars debating, when it comes to the day of judgment, what's actually getting weighed? Is it the deeds themselves given some kind of physical weight? Is it the record books they're written in? Or is it the actual person who did the deeds? Pretty deep stuff.
And the text makes one thing crystal clear. This isn't just some ancient story about them. It's a story about us. It's framed as this timeless warning, basically saying that the very same conflict that started in paradise, well, that's now the central conflict of our lives here on Earth.
Remember how their first instinct was to grab leaves and cover themselves? The text takes that powerful image and builds on it. It says there's a much, much better type of clothing available to all of us, the libas of taqwa. And no, it's not physical clothing, it's a spiritual one. Think of it as a raiment of piety, or this consciousness of God that acts like a shield against the exact kind of deception that they fell for. And then it feels like the text just speaks directly across the centuries to anyone who would ever read or hear this story. It's a direct, personal warning to the children of Adam, tying that very first deception in paradise to the kinds of threats we all face today. It's basically a plea. Don't make the same mistake your parents did. So we're left with this really powerful idea, right? That we are constantly surrounded by whispers trying to reframe our reality for us. And the ultimate defense the story offers isn't about being smarter or stronger. It's about taqwa, this deep spiritual awareness. So the final question is, in a world that's now full of digital whispers, from algorithms, from influencers, from everywhere, how does this ancient advice on guarding against deception really resonate today?